Yeah.
June 9th, number 2022, town board meeting.
Okay, let's have the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all, and welcome. Howard, we welcome you. Vicki and Heather, welcome to our meeting. Mike, I'm going to let you make the announcement for Heather, please.
As we know, there was a vacancy on the recreation board. We had some nominations, and we would like to recommend Heather Osman for that position. So Heather has come in this evening to be sworn in. Just a little quick background. Heather lives in the town, has 2 children, very active in the soccer program. Is also a professor at Westchester Community College, English department. Has served in various capacities there. Had contacted Chelsea that she was interested in serving the community. So we welcome her on board.
Absolutely.
She'll
Love to
attend
have
the
her.
next meeting. We'll get her immediately involved in some days of the rec program.
Great to work.
And yes,
Good.
and the 2 10-year-old and
Almost 13.
almost 13. So children that will be active in the program. But you had been active in the soccer program.
Yeah, I was a coach. I did clinic. We just had our last
Yep.
meeting last night. We did lacrosse,
Yep.
as you know, and we did basketball. And we're doing camp. It's been great for us. I can't say
Good.
enough about the rec program. Really great for my family.
Good.
So Chelsea's excited to have a full membership now, and
Yep.
then we'll get Heather sworn in this evening. So she doesn't have to, I already told her she doesn't have to stay for the rest of the meeting.
That's not real exciting. Heather.
You might find
No.
it.
But thank you for volunteering. We really appreciate
Yes,
it.
Oh,
absolutely.
thank you so much for the opportunity. It's
Yep.
really my pleasure.
Good.
Really.
Great.
So, Leslie, how would you like to sit over here?
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, why don't you sit over here? That way,
you can see.
I also don't
Your
have
back
people's-
isn't-
I don't have my back.
your back isn't,
Back to
and then
Howard.
everybody on screen can see you, right?
You're also much larger than her on the
Right?
screen.
Yeah.
I know.
Heather, it's OSTER and it's OST.
That way everybody can see you on the screen, your back isn't facing people. Yeah. Right. Yes, right. How's that? We're moving on up, right?
Okay.
The Constitution of the United States. I support the Constitution of the United States and the state of New York and the state of New York. And then I will faithfully discharge the duties of Recreation Commission member. The duties of Recreation Commission member to the best of my abilities. To the best of my abilities. Well.
All right. Yeah.
I love all that though. That's confirming it.
Yes, yes.
It's good.
You just became the new supervisor.
Yeah, right.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
We'll see you again.
You bet. Thank you all.
Yep.
You're welcome.
A motion to approve the budget adjustments that Lois prepared.
Yes.
Yeah, so moved.
A second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, I was not over here and.
Bob-
Sorry, who
Bobby.
made the motion?
Bobby did, and I seconded.
And Joe, would you like to give us your report?
1 second.
Sure.
please.
Oh.
Who made the appointment for Heather
Mike,
and who seconded that?
I did.
Bobby did.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
I did.
I met with Colliers on Cologne Road concerning the contract. The initial phase will include their study of the drainage system, which is extremely important. But we rode through, all of the drains have been marked We did that last year. We went over, obviously, some areas where there aren't any, because it's flat and the road is, the ground is higher on either side of the road. It was a good, couple hours spent.
Mhm.
They will be here, within 2 weeks, possibly before that, to, with their crew, to start, this, which basically is sort of a study of the drainage. The next phase would be the marking out of the wires that were put in the ditch area and some road areas during the course of the subdivision, which I don't remember the exact date. It was around 2000, I believe. After that, they will be doing the boring sample. I asked them for sort of a timeline because I know everyone's interested in that, when they would be able to come back to us with some sort of preliminary focus on what they've seen and what they're thinking. September came up. I think that's sort of fair. Sounds
That's
like-
when they will do it or have
No,
it
no,
done
that's
by?
when they're gonna come and start giving you what they have found. Possibly, I'm not sure if they're going to start giving you options. What they can do, what can be accomplished in the, as the road is. Basically September, they will be coming to give you some sort of indication as to what they're finding.
What about the borings, Joe? Are they gonna do any of that?
Yeah, the borings will be done in the beginning of August.
Okay,
It's the earliest they could get there, and they asked 3 of their usual providers.
that's good. It's a good first step.
It is, it is.
Yeah.
I think that's quicker than I thought it would be. So, a lot of work. Vehicle inspection reports, we're initiating this here at the town. It's never been done. We're gonna start doing it. We have done walkarounds, obviously, in the morning of our vehicles. We now have books, $7 a piece. But you fill them out in the morning. Whoever's in that vehicle is gonna report to me any issues with the vehicle. I'm told through talking to other departments that a lot of the departments have been doing it. I'm not sure it's mandatory, but we're gonna start doing it. So it'll just be another checklist, if you were. I'm told the retention time is 1 year on these. I've got an extra file cabinet. It's not a big issue, but,
Will they also keep track of the repairs on each unit?
well, that's the whole idea,
Right,
is
yeah,
that,
right.
we do that.
Right.
Really do that. We do keep track of the repairs. But the idea is to define them before people are going out, if need be.
Right.
We are having issues with, I guess you can call it our supply chain issues. I have a mower that's been down for 2 weeks because I can't get a little part like this that hooks to a hydraulic hose, which is very common. We also, Charlie ordered a 55-gallon drum of oil in December. It arrived late March. We can purchase oil at ports, but it's a lot more expensive, as you can imagine. So we ordered more. We're stockpiling DEF for
Mhm.
The diesels.
Yeah.
for the diesels, yeah. So it looks like it's getting worse.
How are you budgeting for that, Joe, or can't?
It's
can
in the
you?
budget, it's just hard to, the later it comes, the later it gets paid,
Yeah.
basically. We budget for it every year. But Yeah, it's hard.
With
to
the,
keep
with
up.
the increase in the cost of fuel, is that, I mean,
There is an increase. The cost of fuel is, I don't remember what the exact amount was over rack. So what it is so many cents
Yeah.
over what they're purchasing it for. And, yeah, it is, I've noticed a significant issue in the budget this year. Thankfully, we're going to receive, I'm told by Kathleen, that we're up near 40,000 now from FEMA. Although we did expend a great deal of money fixing the damage that was done to Lida. We were at 31 last meeting. I think we're at 40 now or close to it.
Mhm.
So
Great.
that'll go right back into the budget on the road slot, which is where most of this is expended from.
Mhm, mhm.
And that's about it. Unless you have any questions? Anyone?
Joe, I have one,
Yeah.
and I'll bring this up later. I was at the town of Amenia last night,
Mhm.
the planning board meeting about the Depot Road. And they said they've contacted you and you're gonna meet with the Amenia Town Highway Superintendent.
Mhm.
Okay. And they're gonna try to do that soon, they said. They did not make a resolution to pass the logging yet. It looks like it'll go through okay. But they're putting up I think a $10,000 bond. And I believe will be named on that bond
Mhm.
for any damage done to the road.
Okay.
And the forester that was there answered other people's questions. There was no one from the town of Washington present except myself. I was surprised. I thought a lot
Yeah.
of residents might show up, but they didn't.
Mhm.
So, and they, they were very good. They asked a lot of good questions. They got a lot of good answers. I think you read the whole thing, right? Didn't you see it? It's
Yeah.
going to be about, at the maximum,
45.
they'll be doing it 9 weeks, about 4 trucks a week.
Yeah.
Would be the max.
Yeah.
And that's 36 loads of logs, but also a total of 72 trips. So 36 in and 36 out. They're gonna limit it from 8 to 6. They're gonna let everyone know when they're gonna start, when they're gonna finish.
Mhm.
They're gonna try not to use the road if it's raining or wet.
Mhm.
They didn't say anything about the dust situation.
No, well, I will in a minute, but go ahead.
Right, and they, I mentioned to them, are there gonna be provisions like a sign at the end of the road so that the individuals can get to their homes at certain hours? In other words, trucks going in or out will be what times they'll be going in and out. They didn't answer that question. They were gonna look into it. That's one of the reasons they didn't pass the resolution is they want to meet with Joe. And there's one landowner that's very adjacent that had a lot of issues.
In the
with
Amenia side.
on the Amenia side,
Mhm.
with trees and the location of where they're taking them down and things like that. So the forester is going to walk with this guy and maybe unlabel some trees and label some others or something. But as far as our road is concerned, they basically will be responsible for any damage they do to our road. But
sorry,
Go
Bob,
ahead.
interrupt you. No, I was
Go
gonna say, how does Joe do a walkthrough with them of the road so we know what the current state of it is before they start, just so, I'm just thinking
Well,
of
the
car
current
rentals,
state-
and they say that
Yeah,
was
no,
there
right.
before,
That's a
right?
good
You know,
question.
is there
The
a,
existing conditions
Yeah.
versus the conditions after,
Yeah.
take pictures, whatever.
I can do that also with Meg, but Meg is the highway super.
Yeah.
You're gonna spend a little money. 9 weeks, did you say?
a total of 9 weeks.
Okay, so 9 weeks during the course of the summer, okay? What? it would be-
If
which
weather
would be
permitting.
July and August, depending on when they start. But before the winter, and it's gonna be very dry. And we're gonna have to probably once, maybe twice, put calcium down on that road.
For dust,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
And I might suggest that somehow we contact our town of Washington residents. I'm not sure why this went to a planning board. Usually these things don't, and it may be because of,
I think it's a rule. It's got to have a environmental thing done. you know,
well, it may
EAF.
be
They have
over 10
legislation.
acres.
Yeah.
Do they do?
Mhm.
Okay, well, it's something we might want to think of, because I don't even get notified of logging that's done on our dirt roads here in the town of Washington. And when this whole thing was brought up, I get nothing.
We did talk to Jeff. I think you also.
Jeff sent an email today to us.
Right.
Because if we can pass a local ordinance or law requiring some sort of notification and then possibly some sort of review, I mean, I'm not against this stuff, but
No, it's
I,
a,
2, 3, or 4 years ago, the logging trucks coming down Tower Hill in the muddy winter, which they were good enough when I asked them to wait till it froze over.
I think in this case, the reason why Amelia had to notify us is because the property is within 500 feet of our border,
right.
not because of the logging piece, but that's a really important point that you,
Yeah, no,
Right.
what I meant was they notified us,
Yeah.
however, I'm not notified by the forestry department
right,
when there's logging going on in the town.
For our own residents.
They're quite thorough in listing all the issues.
Yep.
And when they get the answers to the issues, they're hoping in 2 weeks to vote on it so that they can get started. And, you know, we don't have the frozen roads like we had years ago. So, because we get the thaws all the time in between. So
Well, they're gonna be
they
running
want
upon approval, is that their idea, or are they gonna do it in the winter? Because if they're gonna do it in the winter, that's a whole different.
they
ball.
do not want to do it in the winter.
Okay.
Their idea is to get it done during the summer,
Yeah.
during the dry months,
Okay,
when the road is dry. Try to take the logs out when they're ready to move the logs.
Yep.
Wait for a dry day, bring the trucks in. You know, my biggest problem, I said, not only the damage to our road, but I'm worried about the trees, how high these trucks are. The forester says they're about the size of a propane truck. And I says, what? Never. And they look like they're a lot bigger than that to me. He wouldn't give me the tonnage.
I'll
Where
take a
they-
look at the apron
And
before.
of course,
before
the
we
first
get
question Jeff asked me is, do we have a tonnage limit road? And we don't.
No,
A resident put a sign up. I don't know how legal that sign is.
yeah, I don't,
There's a-
there's a lot of those going on.
Yeah, there's a sign up that has a
Is there-
picture of a tractor.
with the
trailer
line
with
through
a
it,
No,
line
yeah.
through it.
your former highway superintendent, but
Oh, he
not that-
did?
Not that particular one, I don't believe, but there
Okay.
are some out there. But it is a road and it's allowed to be used. So,
Yeah, I think I counted driveways, a couple houses you can't see, but, you know, from North Tower Hill to our line, there's
Mhm.
only like 7 driveways. And there's another 7 or 8 houses, of course, from 44 to North Tower Hill Road. That's where the little hamlet is, so.
the issue is gonna be the corner that separates the Wassaic and the Washington town line. That's a tough corner.
Yeah, it is bad. Yeah.
And it's very narrow.
Yeah.
do they have to go that far down, Deep Hollow? What, you mean that curve that's,
Well,
you
if
can't
they're
see on the other
coming out
side?
on Deep Hollow, they're coming all the way out to 44. They're not gonna go up North Tower
No,
and then down Tower. They're coming all the way out to 44.
yeah, they can't make the corner down Wassaic and
No.
they can't go over the
No.
bridge.
Nope.
The bridge won't take the weight. And the
No.
corner is way too sharp
Yeah.
for any big
Well,
trucks.
that other corner is sharp too, but
Yeah.
it's a little longer, so.
But the road is narrow, so
I'll talk to
somebody,
Dave.
if somebody meets one of those logging trucks, they're gonna have to back
Oh,
up.
we.
So somebody's
that
driving.
happens all the time on these dirt roads with us. If I'll talk to Meg and we'll try to figure something out, as far as some signs or whatever.
Just do what you think is the right thing to do.
Yeah. I don't know if you want to notify if your residents are even aware of this? Are they aware of it?
A big portion, after our last meeting, I did reach out to a
Oh,
bunch
okay.
of people on Deep Hollow Road, and I did get an email from David Partial asking some of these questions about timing and, you know, road
I
damage and
did talk
stuff.
to David.
He said that he
Also.
saw you,
Yeah.
yeah, that he talked to you too. So I think I just made notes to circle back with that
Yeah,
group.
it'd be a
And
nice courtesy to notify the neighbors of
Well,
what
the
the time
hours
Yeah.
should be
Yeah, the
restricted
time
by
is,
days.
and that we'll, you know,
Isn't
we'll,
that the normal?
what's
I
that?
think
Hours?
the Armenian law says their law is 8 to 6,
Yeah, well.
but Monday through Friday, no
yeah,
weekends,
That's right.
and no holidays.
Yeah, but what is ours? Is it 7 to 7?
I'm not sure.
I've never seen anything.
I think we may have something in there. I remember correctly way back. But
No, it's just 7 to 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay,
Okay.
thanks, Joe.
Yeah. What's that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Mary, want to give us your report?
Yes. Finished collecting taxes, which I'm very happy about, and I paid the supervisor a portion of taxes today, which is from our tax credit card account, and also made a payment to Dutchess County. I'm completing paperwork with Dutchess County, and I'm waiting for 2 checks to clear the bank. And once that happens, then we can finalize all of our payments.
See you, Joe.
Bye, Joe.
Good.
We only have 56 unpaid properties this year, which is down from about 70. So that's a very nice
Mhm.
thing to see. And
So what happens, Mary? Does the penalty keep going up after a certain period of time?
yes, Dutchess County, I pay the supervisor regardless of people paying their taxes or not. Our budget amount, say it's $1 million. The town gets paid their $1 million. Dutchess County doesn't get paid their full share. And then once I turn it over to the county, they're the collecting agency. They do the notices with the
Okay.
newspaper. And I believe people have 3 years before the county begins any proceedings against them. So some people just continue to wait
Yeah.
for that period, and I'm not sure why, but it's just the way they operate their business, their accounting. So I feel like we're in really great shape. And I did have an issue. I'm just going to bring this to your attention in case anyone asks you. Back in 2020, many banks have it's called a tax service organization, pay taxes for their mortgage holders. So a property owner had sold her property in December. The new owners happened to have the same mortgage company as the previous owner, and it appeared to have been paid by the previous owner. Everything had her name on it. There was nothing indicating the new owner's information. So the tax payment was refunded to the previous property owner. A couple of years later, this past 2 weeks, the bank contacted me and said, hey, that should have been paid for the new owners, not the previous owner. I said, well, we refunded it to the previous owner. I will reach out to her. She still lives in Dutchess County. I know who she is. So we did reach out to her. She was good enough to drop off a check today to pay us back.
Wonderful.
So I have to now request that Dutchess County waives the penalty fee for the unpaid taxes for this particular new property owner. So I will be sending a letter to Dutchess County, and it will go to the Commissioner of Finance, who will then forward it to the legislature. And they will, hopefully in the next month or so, waive the penalties. And that would be something Deirdre generally would spearhead on.
That would be nice, yeah.
Yeah, so fortunately, the woman was local and was agreeable, and there was no problems with it.
Good.
So
That's great.
That's
yeah,
great.
well in the long run.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, because I was very nervous. I thought, here I am writing to this woman, like, I had to put in, I had to put in letter format, certified letter, regular mail. And her own, at first she thought maybe it was a scam. It appeared to be our letterhead. She recognized my signature, but she thought this just, was a little unusual. So we worked with her, and like I said, she was a great resident for many years. And
Awesome.
Mhm.
that was the first.
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
Yep. And town clerk wise, we're doing just catching up on all sorts of things in the office now that taxes are done. Bob, you'll see attached to these minutes the draft for the generators.
Oh, okay.
All of you have a copy of that. So if you could review it,
I'll get back to you tomorrow.
Monday, please. I'm
Monday,
out of
okay.
the office tomorrow. And then I'll get it out to bid
Good.
on Tuesday, and we will have responses backed up by July 13th, the day before our town board meeting. I did have one question, Bob. There was nothing in your specs or anything I had, and I added it to this, that they were to do, whomever the contractor is, will do site work. And I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if you're going to depend on Joe and the highway department to kind of clear the pad area, put stone down wherever they're going to put the pad, or
Let me read it and I'll get back to you Monday.
okay, yeah, but that was the only thing that I was
Okay.
really unsure of. Okay. And monthly report's been filed by different departments.
Yep.
We had a COVID case in the building. Fortunately, she's feeling well, and no one else has contracted it, so
Mhm.
it's still floating around out there.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Good,
I think that's it.
thank you.
I don't have my agenda in front of me. so-
I know, sorry, Mary. I was gonna say, do you want to building and zoning, town clerk and tax
Thank you.
collector?
Thank you.
Oh, yes. Video ventures. We have a quote. I emailed it to you today.
Yeah.
It's in here. It's to have Peak Video Ventures take our meetings, translate them to YouTube, then embed them on our website. And I'm requesting that we do engage him. He's been extremely helpful in setting us all up. He
Mhm.
does this for many towns. If we need to down the road as we do our IT changes, if we want to make changes at that point, but I really want to get this going. And I checked with other towns. He's highly recommended by every town I checked with. So I would really like to have this passed by the board. We have money currently in the computer, the IT line, and then if we need to transfer monies, I don't think we will, but if we need to make any transfers, we can take it out of contingency.
He's been
So-
he's been terrific. He came and trained Mary and me and Margaret and Lois and
Lois,
Kristen.
Yeah,
They're from Beacon.
he's from Beacon, yes, yeah.
He works with Stanford and
Fishkill.
Fishkill, Red Hook, a bunch of area towns, and he does Hyde Park, and he does not only does he help facilitate the actual or set up the exact all the Zoom equipment and cameras, but he'll do this piece which Mary has his proposal.
Seems
for.
quite reasonable, doesn't it?
Extremely.
Lord have
reasonable.
mercy,
Yeah,
wow.
I don't think we're going to get a price
I-
better than that. An IT company is going to charge us
Wow.
$125.
Just, I mean,
So these minutes tonight, like within 36 hours, they'll be posted.
Yeah,
the
once we
website?
contract with him, he'll be,
Huh?
yep.
Yeah.
And what he's going to do is the minute, we're going to try and do from the beginning of the year and move forward from there. So he'll put them all on. And, or, if you want to start with tonight's meeting and just go forward, but I would kind of
No,
like to
Yeah.
have 2022 on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And,
Sure.
So you want to vote on that now?
so with the YouTube, the channel, like, we won't be live, right? They,
That's a good.
No, we won't.
do you see what I mean? Like,
Right. If you want to do that, that's something we can do, or we can do a Facebook Live. I would like to get settled
Yeah.
as, as we
First
found we
get
had a few
into-
kinks, so let's get through that.
yeah, so what's everybody's feeling on the, like, if they don't see the meeting now, they see it
They
the
can see
next
it by
day?
Zoom. They see it by Zoom. He'll take that recording,
Okay.
right? And he puts it on YouTube. So
And
you
then you
can,
just call it up.
and you hit the link on our website and you'll go right to YouTube and you'll be able to see the meeting live there. It's almost like a C-SPAN basically, but it's not a live feed. It's a recorded posting of Zoom posting.
Okay. Okay. So not everybody has to watch it on Zoom.
Right.
They can watch it on YouTube
Mhm.
At a later time.
at a later time.
Yes.
Once he posts it.
Yeah. So when will he post it? The next day, a week late? Like what goes on with that?
Says within
It says
36
within
hours.
36
36
hours.
hours. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
All
is
right.
great. And
Brilliant.
we're supposed to have, I think that. the
Oh,
standard keeps
24 to
changing. The
36
governor keeps
hours.
Changing
Oh, all right.
the regulation on it, but currently it's within 2 weeks we're supposed to post. So if it's being taken care of and it's organized and on the site, I think that will be
Yeah.
terrific for
And then you have an
everybody.
Right.
archive moving forward.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you can actually group them into years. You can do 22, 23, 24.
Nice.
Yeah.
And he
Nice.
handles the
Nice.
archiving for them, I think. He'll put them
Yes.
on a drive
Yep.
or
Yeah, so
whatever.
part of it is
Yeah.
purchasing terabytes.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
And he would feed, he'd provide them to the town, clean up what's on the computer.
That's a lot of what Nicole does for the
Yeah.
village, right? But I mean, this seems very, very, very reasonable for everything that he's going to do for us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion, we accept it.
Second. Second.
Awesome.
Bob, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Awesome.
Question.
Thank you,
Will
Mary, for getting
guys
that.
keep a
That's
record
awesome.
On your website of where these are for the year, like I wanted to do 2019. Will it be a 2019 on the website with all the links?
No, we'll be starting in
Oh,
2020.
no, let me restate that. So, if I wanted a year or two from now,
You want
I
to look
want to come
back.
back and see this meeting, or the first one you record.
And it should be there.
It should be on YouTube. I think he said, what did he say, Mary? He gets go back to 2000. I mean, he can go back 10 years on YouTube. It's on
Yeah.
YouTube.
Some
Yeah.
towns do a 2-year, some towns do 5 years, some towns do forever. And I think we are also in the process of establishing some computer use regulations and how we are going to be posting things and what will be on our websites and who makes decisions on all of those things. So that'll be part of our discussions
Yeah.
as to how long, it might be forever, but we'll take that as we work on that.
Could you
Yes.
access it from the site, from our site?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I will
So
be
they-
providing him with passwords for Zoom and also a login to our computer or
Mhm.
into our website.
Mhm.
And he will have to provide us with insurance, and
Right,
certain things that
yeah.
our insurance company requires.
Mhm.
And he'll be providing that to us.
Nice.
So that you can just go to our site
Yeah.
and we'll take you right
Nice.
to YouTube.
Yeah,
I did ask Sarah Wilson when I had that conversation with her about another matter about record retention policies. And she said she has some examples from other towns. Her mom died unexpectedly last week. And because I emailed her earlier this week and I said, want to check in, is there anything I can share? And she-
right, I did the
yeah.
same thing and didn't realize. my mom
I
had
know,
passed,
it's
so,
terrible.
yeah.
I didn't, anyway, but, so maybe for July, we can take a look at that and Mary and I can touch base about it in advance and
Awesome.
circulate that to everybody.
And then Leslie and I talked about a grant. We met about that, and we'll talk about that later with Leslie's report, but I
Okay.
feel positive about that.
Good. Thanks, Mary.
Sure, you're welcome.
Bob,
Okay, Vicky's here from the village and I promised her that we would talk about the electric vehicle charging stations. I'm sorry, I didn't tell Mary to put it on the agenda.
You might
but
have an idea.
Since we kind of talked, we did the media planning board thing. Can you do that to us?
Yes.
Vicky was good enough actually from the village to go to Livingston Energy, who seems to be the premier provider of these stations. And I think I emailed this to everybody. It was made out to the village, but it's a proposal to supply charging stations at no charge. In other words, they'll install them, they'll own them, they'll take care of them. The only thing is we won't get any revenue. What we're doing is giving them some real estate to put them up.
Mhm, mhm.
Vicky's been under quite a bit of pressure from some of the business people in the town, in the village, asking when we're going to get charging stations, when we're going to get charging stations. As you know, the village doesn't own any parking lots.
Right.
We have real estate here. The village has real estate, but no place to put the charging station.
Right.
So,
Is there a lease on it, Bob, or how long they own the?
it's a 5-year.
Okay.
They'll in 5 years, we'll be able to renegotiate this.
Mhm.
If you don't have a copy of it, I have a bunch of copies
Okay,
here.
sure.
So if you want to pass that down to the rest of them, like, do you want one?
I have.
Yeah. Do you want one? So,
Why not?
yeah.
I think I have it.
And
but
so
but
it's,
why not?
yeah, and
Thank you.
it would have to be changed over to the town of Washington. But the whole thing will be no charge to us, and they put up a insurance liability insurance of $1 million, and they'll indemnify us from any claims arising from any negligence or misconduct or any of that other stuff. So I've been thinking about it, talked to Mary about it a little bit, talked to Mike, and Mike had a great idea, but we don't know how fast it'll happen. And I will speak to the Tribute Garden board for the Thorn building, the Tribute Garden people from the Thorn building,
Mhm,
to see if when they develop their new parking lot,
mhm,
that we would incorporate some of these
Oh, yeah.
there
mhm,
for the village's use and any town people use.
mhm.
But in the meantime, my proposal was, I just drew this like 2 seconds before I got in here, I thought was a good idea, was we have in the front of the building, the electric comes in from a pole. If you're facing the building to the left telephone pole is where the electric comes in from the street. From that pole to the right is a fire hydrant at the sidewalk.
Mhm,
To the left of that power pole is a nice big space.
mhm,
You could easily put a pad there for 2 cars.
mhm.
Could be gravel, could be blacktop, could be anything with a little ramp. There's very little elevation from the road there.
Mhm,
It would be you put signage, no parking, in the street there.
mhm.
I don't think it would affect the driver's education, the people going for their driver's license here, because they all seem to either park on the other side of the road or in the Stewart's parking lot,
Mhm,
but there are a few cars out there, but there's plenty of room
mhm.
for the people giving the tests and things
Mhm.
like that. So that's, my idea is to maybe put the charging station there.
Mhm.
One station will charge 2 vehicles, so
Mhm.
it has 2 cords coming out.
Mhm.
Okay, and it'll be a multi-charging station. It'll charge any electric
Mhm,
car.
mhm,
They'd be responsible for everything, but
mhm,
they would also get the revenue from it.
mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
Now, Tim did some research from other, and chime in if you want, Vicki. Tim did some research, the mayor did some research, called other municipalities that have them. And I guess they're working out okay. There's not a lot of usage yet, but so I also circled back to the Tribute Garden.
Mhm.
And there are 3 parking lots in the village, by the diner, the bank, and the library.
Mhm.
And they're going to bring it up again at another meeting. Last time I went to them, they said they didn't think it was time yet, to dedicate some of those parking spaces just for EVs.
Mhm.
But I mean, they won't be used by people who own EVs. He's got a new EV. She has a charging station in her garage, I'm sure.
Mhm.
And so she won't be coming down here to use one that she has to pay,
Mhm.
maybe a higher rate for. So my proposal to the board is at no cost to us, would we donate 2 spaces in the front of the building with some caveats to put a charging station if the village will help us develop the space and maintain the space. So when they're doing the road and the sidewalks, I mean, we have our guys plow our parking lots and stuff. But this will also be more visible to the people
Yeah.
in the town and the village. And also, even if it's on the grid, people pull in and they don't, if there's no sign that says charging stations in the rear, I mean, they'll be right out front, there'll be a sign, they can pull in, charge their vehicles, walk into the village, do their shopping, come back, get their cars. And this is zero cost to us.
All right, I have a question, couple of
Lots
them.
questions.
When you say zero costs, I mean, who is going to pay for the electric?
They will,
They will
They'll
have their own meter.
the Livingston Energy.
They will have their own meter. No kidding. Okay, that's one. Number two, when a car is parked there, how long is it going to take for it to get charged?
Depends on the car, depends on how much charge they want or need,
Yeah.
and it'll be a level 2 charger. Now, Vicky might be able to answer that.
So I mean, say somebody comes in, I mean, not that this is going to get a lot of use. I don't think it will. Because I can tell you of an agency that put these at their locations several years ago. They got a grant from NYSERDA to do it. Because they are not being used, they are actually being taken back. It hasn't been used, not even once, in the locations that they've. And I don't want to discourage it.
Right.
I'm sure that this idea is becoming more and more popular. Especially with the gas problems, etc. But I'm just saying. So when a car is parked there, like say from out of town and they want to charge their electric vehicle, because most people, if they have an electric vehicle, they have their own charging stations at home. This isn't a commuting town. They'll come here. Okay, do they need to charge it or don't they? Are they going to leave it there all day? And might somebody else want it? Do you know what I mean?
Day, let's say, or they're visiting.
Do you know what I mean?
To someone without
Yeah.
a charging
So
station.
these
I
little
think there's
things.
an app. I think there's an app
Oh, yeah, they all have.
that if you're traveling, and maybe Vicky can speak to this if she has an electric car, but I have heard of this where, let's say someone's coming up to Taconic,
Mhm.
they're looking for a charging station.
Yeah.
Let's go to Millbrook and have lunch
Well,
and charge our car.
At
Yeah.
my dealership,
Yeah.
Okay.
when the Volt first came out, do you remember what year? 14, 13, 12? I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
Anyway, when they came out, we had to put a charging station
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
dealership. So I decided to put it in front of the building, put it on the grid so everybody knows it's there,
Yeah,
and it's free.
that's great.
Mhm.
And got used once in a blue moon.
Yeah.
Did it really?
Yeah.
See.
But I mean, that's in Mabbittsville,
Yeah.
so it's not in the village. It's
Yeah.
not where somebody's gonna park their car and walk to the village.
I like the concept and everything, but I honestly believe in our front lawn, it's just so remote from the village proper. Do you know what I
It's a
mean?
block.
When
I
Bob,
know it is.
when,
I know, but it's still.
when
You
Bob
can't
brought
put
it
them-
up,
you can't
Do you
put
know
them
what I
on the
mean?
street.
when Bob brought it up to me after doing the tour through the building last week
Mhm.
on all the excellent work that's taking place at the Thorn Building.
Yeah.
And then talking to the architect who we rediscussed how they're going to push that hill back a little bit and add some parking there.
Mhm.
I thought, Nikki, once that building gets established, which is going to take a little bit of time, but that's going to be a destination.
Mhm.
So people coming from everywhere and people driving electric vehicles, they're going to go there. If the stations were there, they plug in, they tour the building, you're right on Franklin Avenue, they walk down Franklin Avenue, and they enjoy the experience of the village of Millbrook.
Mhm.
Anything that's off that strip, like even over here, originally I was thinking they were going to be behind the building, but Bob's proposal out front, it's still a little bit removed. So my question to you is, how pressing is the timeline for this? I know there's a lot of discussion. What is the pressure now coming into the town or to the village office of saying, gee, I'm touring, I'm coming to Millbrook, but you have no charging stations. Are we getting complaints like that?
Well, there's a couple, you bring up a couple of excellent issues. First of all, to Joe's point, the way people locate their chargers, and I think Boyd will touch on this, is they either use an app or in the car I just got, you just say, where's the nearest charging station? Or
Correct.
is there a charging station in Millbrook? Because I'm thinking of going shopping there. And they'll tell us where it is. It's
Mhm.
very easy to find. And people who have electric cars, of course, are interested. I mean, that's how they live, probably how they live their lives. So whether it's here or up at the Thorn Building or on Franklin Avenue, I don't think would make that big a difference, honestly, because it's not like you drive into town and say, I think I'll charge my car. You know, you sort of know if you're gonna need a charge before you come into town, where the chargers, postal chargers are. So that's to that point. As far as the urgency of doing this right now, you know, when Bob and I started talking about this last year, there was a state program that would pay
Correct.
all the installation
Mm.
costs. The infrastructure, the
In
maintenance.
fact, he did the
et cetera.
research on that.
Yeah.
Well, Vicky did it before I did.
And we were talking, Tim and I were recently talking to Red Hook and Rhinebeck, and they've had chargers for 5 years now. So they got them completely
Mhm.
free and a grant that enabled them to offer them for free. And the grant now is expiring, so they're going to be able to charge, but they will get the revenue. So as time goes on, the deals are getting a lot less lucrative for any of us. So that's the urgency I feel. You know, every year that goes by, as electric cars get more and more popular, I think it's going to be left to the market to do it. So I think that's something to keep in mind. A lot of the grants are just being exhausted because they're popular.
Right.
The folks that have electric cars that Tim reached out to and other towns and villages in Dutchess County have noticed an uptick this year in usage. So now these are destination towns like Rhinebeck, like Red Hook. I don't know, Joe, what you're talking about. Where the charges were, that's not as big a destination. I mean, I just don't know.
Yeah, no,
But
I can answer that. And it wasn't a destination. It was for people that, you know, like the workers.
right, that's.
Do you see what I mean? The workers,
So
like,
that's dependent
yeah.
on whether people
Actually have one,
electric
yeah.
cars yet. So,
and they didn't, nobody's getting them yet. Yeah.
you know, it's chicken and egg, right? There's
Right.
risks attendant to all of it. But this latest proposal, I think why it's so much more attractive right now, is if we're concerned
Mhm.
about usage, then we have no risk. There's no cost whatsoever. And also it says directly on the proposal that they will remove them
Yeah.
at their
Hmm.
expense as well. So if we're finding it's
That was my question, but to me, there's no reason why not to.
Okay.
If we have the real estate and they're going to pay for it and we can see what the usage is like, and maybe when the Thorn Building is done, there were a couple of grants actually in the consolidated fund application grant example that Mary and I looked at on Tuesday. They had as one of the line items, you know, with towns collaborating together, so village and town, providing funding for things, and it used the example of an electric charging station. So one thing I was going to mention in my report is looking into that to see if this would be applicable. The grant applications are due at the end of July. I don't know how long it takes to get the money after that period. So if this is free and we can do it here, maybe we just go ahead and do it, is sort of my feeling, and then see down the
Right, yeah,
road.
the only other thing is I just got this magazine today. It's the Automotive News, National Automotive News magazine, and it was printed June 6th. I didn't read the digital copy, but I read the actual one today, and it had an article that 25% of the stations that are out there aren't working.
Mm.
They're either they got problems. And so, and it doesn't get specific in the article, like which ones. And also, it also says in here that the Tesla stations that are all over the country, especially in California, that in Europe, it even quotes Elon Musk here and says, we've already opened Tesla superchargers to other electric cars in Europe. We intend to roll that out worldwide. So that'll help also. So
Mhm.
my idea is to have one station in front, 2 parking spaces, and it's no cost to us. And I would say that if you wanted to vote yes or no on that tonight, or wait um, till next time around to see if Vicky could take it back to the, and I worked on this a little today, but to take it back to the village to see if they would be willing to, if we put it right in front, so that directly off the street, really visible from the road, whether the village would help us, you know, install the space, put our 2 highway guys' heads together, the best thing to do there. And, but before we did that, we'd have to also get Livingston Energy here. They would have to come, look, see, they probably put a meter right on that pole. It says it right in their proposal. They would do the meter. It would be their meter, their electric, their revenue, their installation, except for the space. You have to prepare the space and you have to maintain the space. So remove the snow and the leaves, I guess. And then,
We'd have to like make a driveway, basically.
well, not a driveway, but 2 spaces.
2 spaces, like a
off the
parking lot.
sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thought. We could put it other places here too. We could put it in the back right-hand corner. I don't know. I'm thinking of Livingston coming here and saying, well, if we put it way over there, it's going to cost us twice as much because we have to trench a line from either the building or the street to back there to put the power in. If it's right there on the pole, all they're going to do is dig a 5-foot little trench, and drop a line in, put their meter up, and off
Plus, I
they
think you
go.
want these where they're visible and they become an attraction for the people that need it. The further away it's out of visibility, although you have your apps, it also is a tribute to the community that we're concerned about this need,
Yeah.
and therefore we have them, and here they are.
It's more
Would
well lit.
these-
I mean, I wouldn't want to go behind a
Well,
building.
these
at
be
night.
on-
Yeah.
Security wise, correct. Yep.
Town hall side of the sidewalk, or would it be on the road?
No, they'd be on the sidewalk. They'd be on
Our
the other,
property,
yeah, here's the sidewalk right here. This line is the
Okay.
sidewalk.
right.
So this would be on our property, have to be,
I was just concerned about the snow plowing and stuff.
right? So no, so the unit would go right here. That would be the unit, and it would have 2 cords.
Got
to
it.
Plug 2 cars in. So the unit would be this.
Oh,
This
okay.
black
Got
dot
it.
here.
Okay.
So this is the sidewalk. This is the sidewalk. This would be the 2 parking spaces, and this would be.
Yeah, they're very unobtrusive. I mean, you don't even notice them.
No, there'd be a sign
I mean, they
saying
look a
no
little-
parking in front, and
I
then
wonder what that
EV
is,
cars.
and then you figure it out.
EV cars only.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with the tribute garden right now, is they're not really.
Right.
They're not really willing to dedicate 2 to 4 spaces. They will be in the future. They said to me that they might do it in the future when they get more requests or
Yeah.
people talking, but to give up and they'd be empty all the time.
Yeah, these are just like handicap parking. Those are the only vehicles that can park there. You can't use it for anything else.
Right.
Right.
Except in front of the post office where everybody.
Correct.
Right.
I would take it back to the village as quickly as you get an answer, and then bring them into,
Yeah.
Let them do a site
I could
visit.
meet with your highway guys and just show it to them and see what they think and.
Well, I also
the
think-
Best way to do it.
Tim ought to talk to those people at the Thorn Building and see down the road, you can get some up there too, because I think that's gonna be a
I think they
magnet.
would, I think they would probably do it.
Yeah. You get 2 more up there, you got 4 in the village.
Sloan
That's
is
pretty
the
good.
architect. We
Yeah.
can talk to Sloan too to see, where to put them up there. But this, at least you'd have 1 station, two outlets. And then if you had them at the tribute garden, put 1 in and,
And 2 at the
And
Thorn
a
Building,
couple
you
at
got
the
5
Thorn
in the
Building.
village.
yeah, that's.
That's a lot of electric cars driving around.
Right, 4 parking spaces
But
up
it's-
there, 2 and 2.
It's just devoted for cars to charge
Correct.
and then move it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's how it works.
So most of the time,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
going to be, empty. And
I mean, if you go down to Fishkill, and you go down to where the Holiday Inn is and Walmart and so on. At one end of that parking lot, there's like 15 of them. And usually it's the people that are coming off 84. They pull in, they hook up, go get something to eat, they get back in their car and they keep on 84. So that every now and then you'll see 3 or 4 there, even though there's 15 pillars, you'll see 3 or 4. They're never packed, but at least it's a location that the apps can send a driver to. Go for it.
No, it makes sense to me.
Do you want a motion tonight, Bob, to, we just want to wait
no,
till
I
you
think,
get more?
I think I'll talk to them and I think I'll give Livingston a call and ask them would they come down and look at the situation that I'm proposing, and if they okay it, then they would do it for the proposal that everybody has.
Yeah.
I think then we go ahead and get it done.
If they're doing it on our property, they would need to get a building permit through James.
Yep.
And he would be the one
Yep.
overseeing.
Yeah, they give Mary a copy of this too.
I did. Oh, that thing.
That says Village of Millwood, so we have to change it to
It's the
town.
one you showed me
Yeah.
last week. Okay.
Great.
Vicky went and got that.
CAC has a climate smart committee that you guys approved.
Yeah.
I'm kind of speaking out of turn because I'm not on the committee. But I'm sure they'd be interested in stuff like that.
Oh, sure.
Would they be able to be kept in the loop as well?
Who?
The climate smart committee group that you guys approved.
See what
That's something that they would want, I'm sure.
Sure.
Yep.
Yep.
I will get. in
We
touch
get our
with,
points.
Shannon.
We get our points. The climate.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Right, right.
Go
Yeah, I think
ahead,
that
Howard.
they're, I'm going to report on them, Howard, and I think,
Oh,
yeah, I think, I was going to say, I think that they are coming up with their priorities to present to the town board. I would expect this would be one of them, and I'm sure they'll be thrilled to hear that we're already working on it, because it is something that's, many other communities are getting ahead of,
So
you know?
you will do that, I'm not gonna do that.
No, I've got it, Howard, but you can back me up on that, always.
I'll do that anyway.
Okay, so next item on my agenda is the heat, AC, and plumbing for the town. We lost our plumber to old age. And we now have 2 air conditioners with leaking problems. They're functioning, but leaking condensation. And Joe thought he could do the one in the basement, and now he says no. The one over here just was today. I ran over with James, helped me, and it's in the ceiling behind the wall there, and it's leaking water, flooded the judge's desk in there. That's what they put stuff. But I can't see, the drain is fine. The drain is draining, so it's inside the unit. Either the pan is rotted out like the one downstairs. So I need some direction on, can we do that under an emergency situation? I mean, it's gonna be 81 tomorrow. We go.
Lois said it was installed or repaid for it last August, so she.
This
asked-
unit here?
The one upstairs?
No,
It's-
this is,
Oh,
this is an old unit. The ones outside, you mean, that we have
Um,
put in for the second floor.
yeah, that's what we thought it was,
No.
upstairs. Oh, all right.
This is the one out there for your office. Flows into your office.
Someone's
It's the
got that
condenser.
All right. Yeah, okay. I was mistaken then. Look,
Right.
We thought it was the new
And-
unit.
And
Those were donated to us 20-some years ago by a resident.
yeah,
So,
and Joe looked at it today and said, and James said the same thing, that they don't have a secondary catch thing underneath them, which they should have. Not by law, but by good install,
Practice.
good practice. So I was thinking of making a few calls tomorrow, see who I could get to come look at them.
Can we get somebody on retainer? Hire a company that
Well, we're
oversees
gonna
this?
put an RFP out
Did-
for that.
Would the pandemic relief funds be something we could use if we have to replace? I mean, we're doing other infrastructure improvements to the building, and that seems to be,
we can talk about it when we
Yeah.
get prices. But yes, we can do it as an emergency, go out to bid, or, you know, you can contact.
A couple, I don't think we're looking at I don't know about this one. The one downstairs, I don't think that's gonna be that big of a deal. It's gonna be some labor involved, but I think it just needs a new drain pan, but it's not something that we can do ourselves.
Right.
You're gonna need a professional guy to get the right measurements, have somebody make one up and
Yeah.
and it was installed with no removable fittings. So it's plastic. The
Mhm.
fittings are plastic, so you have to saw them. And then,
We're not
When we-
talking about $5,000 to $10,000.
no.
So
I'm
then we're
talking
fine.
minimal. Not
Yeah, we're fine.
So we
This
just,
one I'm not sure of, but this one's working fine. It's just the
Leaking.
condensation's leaking out of the unit and it's functioning fine as far as air conditioning.
we just need to make repairs. We don't need to replace, right?
At this point, I would say no
Okay.
replacing. But we also need to, the problem is a lot of heat AC guys don't do plumbing.
Yes,
No, they do plumbing for the AC units, but they don't do plumbing, toilets. And we need that for the town park especially and for this building.
Mhm.
If we have a
okay,
plumbing problem. So we need to have at least somebody to go to. And
Mhm.
And while our previous plumber is still around, he
yeah,
did tell me he would, if we did hire somebody, he would come and, because, he's got antifreeze in this, and
Yes.
he's got special things here, and,
okay.
that's pretty much my report. Just one more quick thing at the town park we're gonna talk about later. But, Chelsea's got her hands full getting everything going up there, so I've been trying to help her in any way I can. So I'm the only one who knows how to put chlorine in the pool right now. So tomorrow morning when I go and do the chlorine, I've made a chart up and I'm gonna print it and we're gonna laminate it. And so we'll teach a few people. It's not that hard. It's
No,
just that you
yeah.
don't need to be certified to do
Right.
it. There is, all the proper equipment is there.
Yeah.
We did a little carpenter work, a little plumbing, and Tom Fiore helped us.
Mhm.
Our previous employee
Yes,
is the one that came and saved the day.
Yes.
So
yes.
he's a great guy. And then he stayed and helped put the slide up, a new slide at the pool.
Wow.
Because
It looks great. I drove by tonight. It looks like,
Chelsea's dad was out there doing it for Chelsea and Joe, or because Tom was there showing me how to do the chlorine, he stayed and he was there all day helping her with the slide. So we got to give him a gold star. when we see
Yes.
him.
Well,
At least, or
thank
an
you.
attaboy
Thank you,
of some
Tom.
sort. Yeah,
Mhm.
great guy.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Mike,
Dovetailing a little bit on what Bob opened up about Recreation Commission report. Yesterday, late afternoon, Chelsea was notified by the person she had hired to be the health director that the person was backing out and was taking a position closer to where that person lived. So right now, we've contacted the health department. They've sent some rules and regulations on what the health director for a camp needs to be. We found out that the person does not have to be on ground, but the person has to be of a level that they can review medical records. And they can also designate a person with high-level CPR training and other needs on ground. And then once that person has been designated, there needs to be another person with CPR on ground. So Chelsea's calling around. We're starting to brainstorm. We've asked Mary to post on our website if there's a nurse or someone out there that may be off for the summer that was a school nurse. But Chelsea's beating the bushes trying to find out. I'm working with her. We're going to try and get that resolved. We have a few weeks, but the nature of the thing is people back out.
Yes.
And other communities are scrambling to find head lifeguards, health directors. It's tight out there. But I'm going to speak with Chelsea again tomorrow. She had another person, but the person was down in Westchester, was a pre-med student, was fully certified, but he wanted commuting cost. We decided we weren't going to do that because it opened up a can of worms for everybody else that commuted. So she's making some calls. We'll see what we can get. That's on top of other things that we'll talk about when we go into executive session on some personnel matters up there. But the grounds are coming about. She has stepped forward to help physically up there. She's got her lifeguards doing some maintenance work and so on. But rolling into, as far as camp goes, she's fully booked. Registration's moving forward. She's looking at her lifeguards are good. She's holding them. So it looks like, except for this that popped up unexpectedly, things looked good. And now we just got to scramble a little bit. Park and pool. Bob mentioned the chlorine system. We also took a look at the road up there, and while we were walking around, the place is starting to show its age. It's nobody's fault. It's just that it dates back to the 1940s, 1950s. So I'm recommending here, I'd like to start to reach out to some professionals and put together a committee that will do a walk through that entire ground, have somebody that's proficient in plumbing, somebody that's a carpenter, somebody that knows grounds, that knows soil. Let's take a walk through there and see what it needs to be addressed. Put it together into a proposal, and then take a look at what the dollars would be for that kind of proposal, whether it's the sheds, the stone building itself, the sidewalk, the curbing, the drainage. I mean, when we were walking, looking at the entrance road, there's drains that are filled, that are full because they haven't been pumped out. Even the charcoal pits, maybe they need to be upgraded. That's a jewel in the community, but it is starting to show its age. And I noticed in the Millbrook magazine last week or the week before, I think it was the town of Stamford, Bill, some people.
I brought it with me.
Yeah, some people neighbors had walked through, taken a look at it. They put together a committee that's raising dollars.
Yes.
My thought is, let's take a look at what are the needs, attached dollars.
Yes.
If we have to go that route, we go that route.
Yeah. I saw that.
There are some other
Smuggling.
communities that have been able to, within their building permit code, their building permit codes, they build in a recreation fee attached to a building permit code, where like $100 out of every 1,000 or every 5,000.
For any building permit that's issued in the town?
Yeah, they take a little,
Oh, that's
they take a
great.
little piece out and they apply it to recreation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are options we could look at, but I'd like to put together like a Skip, like a Skylar, like the head greenskeeper at the golf course, Tom Fiore, who has knowledge of the place. Just do a complete walkthrough and take a look at bathrooms, take a look at the stone building, take a look at the size, the sidewalks, the sheds up in the back.
Interrupt you, but we just had the bathrooms redone,
I know.
and we spent quite a bit of money doing
I know.
it. And
We had to come up to handicap code. on those.
Chelsea made this list up of things that need to be done there,
Correct.
which I handed to the tribute garden, but she said
Pressure's an issue.
different, and I didn't talk to her about that, but maybe you could find out from her. She said this, a different solution for the bathroom floors. And we had trouble with those floors when the guy did them. He had to
Correct.
come back and redo them.
Correct.
And they're still not 100%.
Well, then we got to call that company back and have them back here.
Okay.
And the one thing with
Give me the
the
name, I'll call that guy, Eliad or whatever his name is.
with the bathrooms, the pressure there is not to code or what needs to be for the number of stalls that they have. But one of the plumbers has said, if you put in a certain kind of tank on one of them, that will create enough pressure that they will flush appropriately. So she's already working on that.
It's there now.
Correct. But that's the kind of things that nobody's fault, but over the years, technologies have changed and the place is starting to show its age. So I'd like to start addressing that issue now, rather than duct tape and glue, super glue, and do all this kind of stuff. Let's get a good look at what it, and if it takes 2 years to upgrade the ball field, that's not used anymore. Maybe there's a good use for pickleball courts up there. Get that fencing down, make it more accessible to not just for children recreation, adult recreation. the picnic areas, with better grills or, so
Yeah.
I'll move forward on that.
Chelsea had mentioned to me, Mike, last year that there was some sort of I don't know if you did a strategic plan a couple of years ago or a town survey.
I have a checklist, yeah.
Yeah. And she said that people wanted pickleball, that there was a list of things that people wanted from the rec, so that we could
Yeah.
maybe incorporate that into whatever estimate you get,
Sure.
because
Oh, yeah.
I do feel like this is something that people would get behind to
yeah.
support in the community, and we could fundraise to fund this.
Even that walkover bridge that we put in a number of years ago
Yeah.
to get to the upper fields.
Mhm.
There should be a tickler that every couple of years, somebody gets under that bridge and looks there and
And
makes
inspects
sure.
it. Sure,
It's a
absolutely.
$90,000.
And if we don't do that,
Absolutely.
we're going to end up with a thorn building issue that you don't want when you can take care of that year to year to year rather than
Yeah.
let it compound itself.
Sure.
So I'll start moving forward on that and get some bridge
Right.
out there.
Excellent.
And that's all I've got right now until we go into executive session.
Yeah.
Mike, I had I made a note during the PACE training that when I did my orientation training with the Association of Towns, I know that you're the liaison for the ethics committee.
Oh, I should have mentioned that. Yes.
They mentioned that they do free ethics trainings for towns. They did a whole
Yeah.
30 minutes as part of my orientation. There were things in it, having signed other code of ethics and code of conduct for other boards that were included for the state that I didn't realize. So they'll do it for us for free. I was thinking the other night's training was so productive, and here you have a third party that just focuses on that
Yes.
issue.
Yes.
And they have best practices and they're up to date. And so anyway,
Right.
if you call them, they'll do it for us. And I don't know the next time we'll all be together for something like that, but it might be worthwhile.
And thanks for bringing that
The
up. I
22nd, right?
Yeah.
I didn't have it on the
Yeah,
agenda,
yeah.
but I penned it in. The ethics committee met with Jeff and they went over the draft that the committee had put together that had some questions on whether it was appropriate for that committee to insert that into that. And they had a nice roundtable suggestion. They made some changes. They came to agreements. They passed it off to Jeff. Jeff's going to put it together, give it back to them, and then they will come and make a proposal to us. There were some issues on there on who had enforcement authority. And rather than they being an enforcement committee, which they should not be, they will be a recommendation committee on issues that need follow-up on, that would be brought to us, and then we would be the people that would enact penalties or suspensions or whatever. But that had to be fleshed out and rewritten. So Jeff's working on that. They're going to give it back to Pam. Pam will incorporate it, and then they'll bring it in and give it to us. But then education for the employees and the volunteers is a key element. And I'll mention that to Pam.
Jeff
and then
might
we
want
can
to
look
send a
that up.
draft to the legal counsel of the Association of Towns. I know
Right.
Jeff has their email directly because he emailed them about this issue with the governor constantly changing Zoom and requirements for posting and stuff. I would encourage him to send it to them and just say,
Yeah.
how does this look? Are we in line with what we should be
Yeah.
doing? And they might
And
have
Pam
comments. or-
pulled some stuff from them already.
Okay, good. But
But
they'll talk to you live. I mean,
Yeah.
it's free. I find it the most,
Yeah.
it's a wonderful resource. So that might be
so that's
helpful.
getting close to being brought to us.
That's great.
Okay. Joseph.
Okay, so the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee met last on May 25th. They discussed the findings of the recent town village survey that they conducted. There is nothing earth-shattering to report from that survey that I haven't already reported the previous when we had the preview of the survey. I think the percentage might have changed, 1% from 59. I think I said last meeting, 60% of those surveys support small rentals, Airbnbs. I think now it's 59%. But here again, I mean, the figures have not changed dramatically. It's posted on the website. The reports are going to be posted on the website. I think there's the latest would be the economic plan, economic review that's going to be posted. Everything that's posted, including the survey, allows anybody who wants to go onto the site, review it, and come up with additional questions or concerns that they might have. There's an email set up that they can,
On our website?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
that they can
I
send
saw
directly to that.
I read the whole thing, but I didn't see
Which
it.
brings us to the next meeting, June 16th is the next meeting, and upon which they would hopefully have those findings to discuss and review. And as Tim puts it, we want to get everything so this plane can land. You know, it's in that. At the meeting, Tim instructed Nan to review the charge, and hopefully the final report will be the way the charge goes.
Mhm.
Each question and each thought from the charge will be answered. And so we will have that. They are hoping to have this done by July 4th.
Is Tim
Okay,
So they'll present it at
anticipating
our-
coming and presenting before us?
I don't think so. No, I think they're just going to present the findings to
Like
us.
in
you
a-
know.
in a
Yes,
document.
Yes. So what
By
other thing?
July,
4th. Yeah, yeah. They wanted it mid-June, but even that was, you know, that was generous. I mean, for
Yeah,
all
that's
that they're
pretty-
doing
yeah, that's
and want to
pretty-
get done, even July 4th,
Joe, do you remember
Get a
the
good
number of
report.
responses they got?
I
It's
don't have it
600
with
and
me. It was
something.
600 and something
Out of
responses.
1400.
Yeah,
71.
something like that. Yeah, I reported that last. I don't have it in my notes.
We may want
last.
to ask Tim to come
So,
once it's collated and formalized, just to ask some questions on background. You know, how did you come to this conclusion?
well,
Yeah,
maybe
maybe
they'll
now.
submit us the
Yeah.
report
Yeah.
and then we'll review it.
And then
if
ask
we
him to
have
come.
questions,
That's what I
he can
mean.
come.
That's what I
Yeah.
mean. Eventually, he should
So,
present it.
so we can do that. So,
And Nan maybe too. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nan, and there was her colleague that did the, I'm sorry. You're interrupting you, Jeff.
No,
He was
that's fine.
terrific too. I forget his
Yeah.
name, but
I think all of them, like Nan,
Mm.
I'm very, very impressed
Yeah.
with these consultants. I'm very impressed with them. And so, what else did I?
the only other thing,
say?
I tuned into that I thought was super helpful, and I've never seen anything like it before, but they did all the mapping, right?
Yes,
And so
yes.
they showed,
Yeah,
they did all new water maps, and they
Mhm.
did topography maps, and
Yes.
they showed sensitive environmental areas, and they were going to continue to update that, I think, with the DLC easement
Mhm.
maps. And I have a
Yes.
question for the committee whenever it's finished about how we take those. What does the town do with those maps? Did they go to the planning and zoning board might want that, have
Oh,
them, or
no,
how do we
we'll have-
incorporate
we'll
them,
have-
and where do they live and all
Yeah,
that
no,
stuff?
we'll have
Once-
those.
once- Yeah, no,
we'll
yeah,
have- So,
really
the-
detailed.
anything in the report will
Yeah.
be ours to use.
Yeah,
So.
You know, what's disturbing to me is the 600, even if it was 700 responses. I mean, that's like 8% of the.
They came from all areas of the town and the village. I mean, it wasn't just from one corner. It was like
But it's
basically
not
a
even-
well-rounded,
it's not even 10%.
yeah.
but they
Yeah.
said that they thought that was a very healthy
Yeah.
response rate.
They were very encouraged by it, actually.
They were.
Yeah, yes.
There's probably a statistical formula.
I mean, when we get people voting is on a non-election year, it's like 800.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a couple hundred more. I'm very surprised.
But with statistical analysis, there are percentages that are benchmarks.
Mhm.
And if they're very satisfied with that, then 600 or whatever the turnout was,
No, it was
300, and
Yeah.
what was it, 600?
678 or
Out of
something.
1400?
670.
Out of 4,100?
out of the
4,100
population.
residents, but
4,100
not adults, and not,
Mhm.
I think a lot of people also were very particular about, I think it was, they originally did one person per household.
Like,
and
for
so-
example, like, exactly, like you have a couple, well, I don't think two people did it.
It's gonna
Maybe
be
they
one.
got together.
Back,
You
know
you see what I
We
mean?
did have a
So,
lot of couples come in and do it. They came and picked up
Yeah.
copies
mhm.
and they said, we don't necessarily
Agree,
or
right.
we
Right.
want, we
Mhm.
really want to make the stand
Yeah.
that this is important to us.
Mhm.
So there was quite a few people that came
They
in
did,
and
they
dropped
did,
off
okay.
paper copies.
Right.
as
For this
copies.
type of subject matter, that might be a good return.
Mhm.
Another subject matter, you may want a higher
Yeah.
return.
Considering that
But
we
that's a
mailed it
great,
to
that's a
everybody,
great
know
question
how-
though to
How
ask,
important it is to us.
Mhm.
to ask them.
So,
I think in the last survey that you, the comp plan, you had about the same number.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, in that range. The difference between, on this one, if I understood it correctly, is you could vote on your own computer at home. If somebody else in your house, if they had a different computer, they could vote on that computer too.
But you
So-
couldn't have the same, you couldn't have the same
Address.
computer address.
IP.
And I guess they did track that from what
they
I
did.
understand.
Yes, they
I
did.
just happened to sit in on that one,
That's
the
fine.
last meeting when they were making this comment.
Yes.
Well, that's the only
Yeah.
difference. And
Yeah.
if you log in and out on a lot of computers, you have different IP addresses.
Mhm.
So the numbers, are similar to what happened last time, is what I'm saying. The last time they mailed them one to a household, that's the only difference that I recall. And this one, I believe, I could be wrong, it might be, they might have checked that, but I do recall that if you had different devices, they said they could vote on them. And like, for example, my phone is in cloud and my computer is with cable right now. And I have different IPS addresses on both
Did you
of those.
vote twice, Howard?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you only have
Are
one,
you
you only
out
have
of
one
yourself, Howard,
name.
is it?
Do
Yeah.
you see what I mean?
The point is that they
Like-
do that, that they check
Yes,
by
they,
name, or by, how did they? That was
You know
one of
what,
my
that's a great,
questions.
they
well,
did say they'll
it
take
was
questions
name,
till June.
address.
Yeah.
Okay, name and address. Your name and address. So
They didn't
how,
make them public, they're making. it
how
public.
do they, right, no, not individual, but how do you go by anybody else who does not live in your address?
Well, that was one of the questions that didn't get answered, and it's probably the answer.
So that's,
Did they actually go and check the IP addresses?
They did.
they checked
They did.
everything.
From what I
They
understand.
checked
did.
everything. They
But
did.
you have till June, is it June 13th to ask questions?
Yes.
And so
There's
if
one of
you
your
have any
questions.
questions, you can email them, and I believe the email address is.
But
right
my
on the town's
preliminary
website.
report last time was, I explained how, like they actually threw some away
Yeah.
because of questionable IP addresses. So,
Tim sounds like he's being very optimistic
Yeah.
about July 4th, so tell him if he needs more time.
I
I'd
told
rather
him.
have it,
the
the plane land with the wheels down than to come in skidding.
that's right. But, yes, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're doing great.
Oh, it
We'll
is.
leave them the way they are comfortable. So that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I-
Grab me a cup, please.
Absolutely.
I have a ton here. I'm
Give
just
us some
pulling up my
more.
notes.
2 cups.
Okay,
That might have a
so
crack in it, Gary. I felt it. Yeah.
I will start with my
Yeah, go
report
ahead.
supervisor, if that's okay
Sure.
with you. And the planning board met this past Tuesday night. They touched briefly on the Perkins
Do you want some
Palladium
real water?
application. If you recall, that was
Water.
a sightline, and that approval was contingent on an amended map being provided. They have not received the map yet. They anticipate receiving it next month. Once it's received, they expect that application to be finalized, and the planning board chair will sign off on that resolution. They had a new application that Brian Houston presented on behalf of Gail Bonteque. These are 3 lots that are north of the Shunpike, east and west of Ludlow Road. Gail is donating 2 larger parcels to the DLC that are on either side of this. It's a 47-acre plot. There's no proposed development at this time for that property. I mentioned that it's part of this, so it's basically 1 lot that'd be subdivided into 3 lots. Because it's going from 1 to 3 lots, it's not considered rather a minor subdivision, and therefore it's subject to the code's requirement for a public hearing. So there was a negative declaration for seeker since there's not a proposed development there at the time. So there'll be a public hearing for this application on July 5th. They're also going to notify Stanford of the application because that property is within 500 feet of the Stanford boundary. The second new application was from Brian Kiernan, who is the new owner of the Stagecoach Deli. He purchased this property last fall and has converted it into an office. There's no changes there to the parking or lighting in the property. There's a sign there on the window. It's not illuminated. this business is an office really for their own purposes. It's not one that would be open necessarily to the public in any way. Jeff Battistoni was present at the meeting on Tuesday. He pointed out the code requires that a professional office in this district receive a special approval, and that the deli special use permit has lapsed. So
What is their business? Sorry.
they are kind of sort of a
Maintenance,
property management.
Yeah.
Property management. And I think he has a handful of employees. So the number of parking spaces was adequate. There was discussion around that. He's going to have to, the applicant's going to have to provide a site plan for the public hearing next week. There was discussion over whether or not, coming from some people in the audience, there's a question about whether or not there should have been a cease and desist on his current business because he didn't have the permit at the time, before he then applies for a new one. In the spirit of it, because it is a commercial business, they're just going to move forward with getting him a new special, with having him apply rather formally for a proper special use permit.
That's one of the Mabbittsville issues.
Yeah,
It's our zoning issue in Mabbittsville. Is that, this business that was closed for more than a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is special.
Yeah.
And
No, that's not exactly what it said. It said the special permit has lapsed if you're closed for more than a year.
Right.
We had that with Neil Wilson, so he
Right.
doesn't have the special permit. Then you get into the other part, as you know, in Mabbittsville, the 2-to-1 ratio.
Right.
And there hasn't been, he can't, this is just me speaking, I'm not gonna argue.
So we have to, on public comment, save it for public comment, and we're going to allow
Well,
Leslie to
it's on
continue.
topic right
Yeah.
now.
Okay,
Whether
we'll
you
save
like
it.
Doesn't make any difference to me.
Okay, so that applicant is going to be coming back in July with his site plan, and they're going to determine at that time whether or not they approve his special use permit. That was all for the planning board on Tuesday night. The ZBA met on May 17th. St. Peter's Church came back to them to get approval to expand their area variance for putting in a new handicap ramp. I don't know if you recall, the tree fell and
Yeah.
smashed the entrance.
Yeah.
The handicap ramp was going to be 18 inches larger than what their original application was. They were being very diligent in coming back and presenting that to the ZBA. It was a very straightforward application. It was approved unanimously. That was all that they had on the agenda for that evening. The CAC met last night. They discussed their work, Howard, on the climate smart communities, that they're still getting together their priorities and formulating a list of things they'd like to consider and bring to the town for our consideration. They're speaking with the Cornell Cooperative. They're putting together their group, and so we should hear from them on that soon, I anticipate. Margaret Schneibel updated on the CPRC's work on the water maps and the different maps that they're doing and how that can be brought to bear on the work of the CAC and planning and zoning boards. They also discussed a bit about the Stagecoach Deli application, which I think that Howard's going to opine on a little bit later. And they also discussed a noise ordinance, and they want to work on a letter to the town board about possibly the town of Washington considering a noise ordinance. They're going to look and see what other towns are doing in this regard and come to us with their thoughts on that. PACE training, as you all know, thank you again to Mary for getting that grant and bringing PACE to us. As you know, we had a training with town board members, the planning board, the zoning board, and members of the CAC, with members of the PACE Land Use Law Center for the first of 2 of their trainings with us. I thought it was so informative and so helpful.
It was.
It
Yeah.
was eye-opening.
Yeah.
It's very productive. And it's also a good refresher. You see what I mean? It really, very good. Very
Well, I
nice.
think that's all they do is land use. So to hear from experts and a third party outside to
Sure.
come and say, this
Yep.
is something you're doing really well. Here's an area where you can improve.
Yeah.
For people that are here and watching, they put us through a mock discussion. An applicant comes to the town. What's the first place that they go? What
Right.
boards do they go to? What do the forms look like? Where do they find them? So it was a really, really helpful exercise.
Mhm.
They're going to come back to meet with us again on June 22nd.
Right.
And they'll make some recommendations then about things we can do to help, or
Mhm.
things we can consider to do to
Yeah.
help us improve our processes and practices. They also have mentioned, PACE has mentioned to Mary and to me, that we can apply for an additional grant to help them help us with the deliverables. So once they say, you might want to change this form, or you might want to get a checklist for this, they would actually work with us to do that. So Mary and I talked
Cool.
about this the other day.
Right.
We are going to apply for that grant. We certainly, will be working, I'm sure, in concert with Jeff and with AKRF, but if we can have them help us and we can get the funding for the bulk of that work, and they're helping us in the beginning, we thought it might make sense to see if we can get that money to continue
Sure.
working with them.
We just need a motion to authorize us to make an application to pay
To
to the county.
The county, okay.
So moved.
Mike, Bob, second.
Okay, all in favor.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Mary, for that.
You know,
So I attended that virtual seminar on how to apply for consolidated fund applications. It's so exciting to see all the things we can apply.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of work for us,
Yeah.
but it's there's a lot of opportunities out there. And one is they have funding for what's called smart growth communities. Any community or town or village that's looking to open up their comprehensive plan to update it in any way, they are eligible for a grant from them. And that would include, basically the work that we're doing right now with the CPRC and opening our plan to look at hospitality, they'll provide us with funding for the legal bills associated with that, for planners, and for any other work we might want to do, any other updates. Someone just mentioned, do we have, an ordinance for when people can work from 7 to 10, or whatever we want to consider, we can include those things in that grant application for the area planning that we plan to do this summer when we update our code. So that's exciting. Mary and I met earlier this week. We looked at the criteria for a smart growth community. We fulfill many of them. So I think we have a very good shot of getting the funding. We're going to touch base with Nan. We're going to touch base with Jeff Battistoni and figure out what the estimates are for how much it's going to cost to do that work, and also see how that works in concert with the funding we already have to do the CPRC's work.
Yeah.
But there might be new things we want to look at. So we're going to come up with a list of things, and that grant is due at the end of July. So we have some time. And they had other things that, climate smart community initiatives that they fund. And I think we should mention this to Tim, but Vicky's here too. Any work where towns and villages are collaborating together, they will fund those kinds of projects. And they use, for example, electric charging stations as an example in our little packet of examples. So just throwing that out there, if there's anything else that we're thinking we might want to do or need to do, infrastructure or anything that involves both the town and the village, it's something we could think about applying for. And I think that's it. Mary, did I miss anything? We need to have a motion to apply for the grant for the smart growth community.
We do.
Okay.
And the grant can be up to $100,000. So I would ask the board to allow Leslie and I to put together a grant application for that particular funding, up to $100,000. 10%, I believe, we have to either fund or get another donation towards that, and so possibly even more effective budget. We could potentially use money that's been donated to us already for the CPRC
Good,
and
sure.
utilize some of that.
Yep.
And the timing on this is perfect because the CPRC is going to be giving us their documents in July, and we'll be able to talk about all of that in our grant application.
And then put it into the document.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I can send you all the deck that the state provided with all the criteria, and Mary and I went through them. Oh, you might have emailed that in. Okay.
If you look through those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty optimistic. I mean, there's been the CPRC has done such great work, and they talk about engaging the community in the process, which they've done, having professional planners, being thoughtful about engaging all the stakeholders. I mean, we really do hit a lot of the criteria, and so it'd be great.
Could you update us on Nina's announcement and moving
Yes.
forward?
Thank you. So, yes. Oh, I'm sorry, Mary. Yes. So may I have a motion to approve allowing Mary and I to
make
apply. Oh,
You made the
can make
motion.
I'm making a
There you
I'm
go.
making a motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
Joe, second, all in favor.
Okay,
Aye.
thank
All
you,
right.
Gary.
You're welcome.
So Nina Peak, who was our lead supervisory consultant from AKRF, is leaving, or I should say has left AKRF and is going to another firm in the fall, not in the same capacity. She's doing business development for them. She's taking the summer off. A woman by the name of Ashley Lee, who is her equivalent within the firm, would be assuming the supervisory role over Aaron. She is. She's worked with Dover and Northeast. But I emailed with her today. Gary and I were emailing to see if perhaps she could come this evening to meet all of you. We thought maybe tonight there was sort of a lot on the docket. So we're looking at sometime next week for her to Zoom with us and the planning board chair and the zoning board chair and the CAC chair, just so everyone can meet her and feel comfortable
Sure.
with her being the supervisor. Aaron Werner really is our day-to-day contact, but she again would be sort of his supervisor
sure.
and our lead for more complicated applications. We would be engaging Ashley with that. And again, as Nina mentioned in her email, I think to all of us, AKRF has a stable of experts still that if we need to draw on them for anything else.
yeah.
So I think we're still in very good hands. And Aaron's been working very well with all the committees so far too. But I want to make sure that we connect with her in person. I also included her in the training on the 22nd. She has a conflict right now that she's going to see if she can move. And I think Gary, you might have been on that email too. So
Yeah, good. Okay.
that's all we.
Aaron's been
report.
coming to the meetings.
Yes, he didn't. He does not come this week because he has
Yeah.
COVID.
Oh, okay.
But he can be a Zoom.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yes, he's been in person otherwise.
Yeah.
So that's it for
Very
me.
good report.
Before you go to public session, can I just say Lois and I did attend the training, the finance training
Yeah.
up in Albany, and it was an excellent training, other than we were sitting like 250 people side to side in a room. It's like, oh
Wow.
my God, COVID doesn't matter anymore. But we learned some great stuff. We really wanted to know about the ARPA funding and how that works with the town. So we got some great training on that and how we need to proceed on spending some of that money. So it's a great opportunity. So thank you for allowing us to go. And
Good.
I do recommend that if any board members in the future have time to attend something like that, it would be a great
Yeah, it's
thing.
worth it.
Okay. Yeah.
Good.
So thank you.
Glad you went.
Thanks. We were too, yeah. We
Yeah.
really came back. Every time you attend something like that, you just pick up more. And more
Yeah.
stuff.
You make some connections too, right?
So Leslie,
Yeah.
what's the response for Tuesday? Roughly, any idea?
Oh, I don't know what the final number is, but we only had a handful of people that couldn't make it,
Oh, they couldn't.
that could not make it.
Okay, good.
So I think we're
Good.
going to
We
have a
good
full house.
turnout.
Talk about a
Nice.
COVID super spreader. We might be in. The good news is that they've given us the patio outside,
Yeah.
so we'll have a
Depending on the
good
weather.
flow. And I have a note here. I was going to send another reminder out and just mention, Gary, I didn't know if you wanted to make remarks at a certain time. I could just let people know the supervisor's going to make remarks at 6:45. I don't know. We
Yeah,
could talk
we'll
about
figure it
that
out.
by
Yeah.
email or whatever, however
Yep.
you want to handle any of the
Yeah.
the other details.
We
about
Sure.
should
that.
have a full speech.
Yeah.
Right, Gary?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a drink in this hand.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay.
So Howard, did you want to finish up on your,
Okay, let me do it for anybody else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is an answer to Bob's question, sort of a conundrum that was established by the two master plans back on Thurston Green. I'm sure you remember the name.
Sure do.
Represented the people up in Madison when they put together a proposal that was in the last master plan and the master plan before that. And the idea was that it's a mixed hamlet. And they want a residential tone to the hamlet, but they do want business. And so they came up with a resolution for what happens. Oh, first of all, the beginning part of what we did, this is just information. Beginning part of what we talked about, and Bob brought it up, is what happens when a permit lapses. And this place, the permit lapsed over a year or 2 years ago. It reverts back to the primary use of the district. And the primary use of the district is residential. And anything, there's a few things that you can do if you're residential, and everything else after that is special use permits. So he doesn't have a special use permit anymore. That's where the violation came in, because it had lapsed. So the solution is try and get another permit for commercial use. The problem is, when they did that back in I'm going to say 1989 or so originally,
87.
it's not, that's when it started and it ended up.
Yeah, it ended up later.
And they put in a clause that said in order to get a special use permit for commercial, there has to be twice as much floor space in the last 2 years that were residential. And that's the conundrum. To get his special permit, if you read the code, strictly interpret the code. You may not strictly interpret the code, but if you read that code as written, it says he has to have a complementary 2-for-1 ratio of residential in the district in the last 2 years, and that hasn't happened. So the only thing that building is useful for under the code is residential uses at the moment. And that's the question.
And I'm going to chime in just a little bit. And that's the reason we need to visit the zoning for Mattisville and Washington
Yeah.
again.
Well,
That may be
that will
correct.
arise as a result of their study too.
But wouldn't that,
But that particular,
Yes.
it's just, I was
That
born
particular
and raised in
clause, right.
Mattisville, 2 doors up from that little store, that little place there. And I don't remember when that building was built, but it was built, in the 1700s sometimes. It had gas pumps in the front of it. It was a general store when I was a little boy, 70 years ago, 70 plus years ago. And it's been commercial ever since. And the gentleman who redid it into deli many years ago, it was always a deli
Mm.
and
Carnes
a
Market.
general store, a deli.
Mhm.
It wasn't never really a gas station.
Right.
It was you could go in there and get a steak from Miss Harry Pettit in the
Mhm.
back of the building, and get your gallon of milk and your
Mhm.
newspapers and, a
Mhm.
bottle window cleaner if you wanted,
Right.
a little bit of everything.
Mhm.
But I guess my point is that the previous owner, he spent over $100,000 on a septic system for that place. The
Yeah.
parking lot is a septic system, very
Yeah.
elaborate, with tanks and pumps and all kinds of stuff, because there's no property there to get rid of the waste. But it works well, and it's passed all the health department when it was a deli. And how do you sell a building like
Yeah.
that? You can't sell it as a house. It's
Right.
1 inch from the road.
Right.
and that was, in this particular case, it wasn't grandfathered. It wasn't a grandfather, the special use permit cannot be grandfathered, but it's,
It can be grandfathered.
if there's a continuation of use.
He's a non-conforming use, then it's the same thing.
But I guess in this, to Bob's point, and this is, what else could that space, I guess it could be,
That's the conundrum, that's the
yeah.
problem. But he, even if he's not a special permit, he's probably more likely, Bob will probably correct me, he's probably more likely a non-conforming use that was there from God knows how long. And so he had the non-conforming use status instead, which also lapses once the non-conforming
Yeah.
use
Over a
lapses.
year.
So that's the problem. I mean, you're the administrative body. You can fix whatever you want to fix at some point. And
Well, it needs to be,
right now, there's a residential upstairs. I don't know why they can't be a residential downstairs. I assume it could be if they wanted that. But that would be in keeping with the required allowed use. She's allowed to have a residential use down there. So I just brought that up because I wanted to know how they were going to handle that. And I don't know how the people in the area feel about it. I don't live up there, so I don't know how that works.
it's very, very restrictive zoning in
Yes.
Mattisville and Washington Hollow.
Well, the Washington Hollow is a little different, if I may digress, if you don't mind. The hotel is still an allowed use. The question is, what do you do with the Cottonwood Inn itself, which it's somewhat in the same situation of the elapsed use.
Right.
So it's kind of like that. The only thing that Pat would, I don't know, that this, but these are coming up now, you know, in terms of the comprehensive plan review committee, so to speak. These issues are coming up.
Mhm.
What do you do with these places that don't quite fit in? Would you handle that under the comprehensive use committee, for example?
Well, I think the ZBA
Not at
will
this
handle
time,
that
we
at this
wouldn't.
point.
Well, I think with the evidence that comes back from this group that Joe's helping steer,
Mhm.
and we get their presentation and we look at what they're suggesting or what they're saying through the answers from the public, we're going to have to take a look at these issues.
Yeah.
Right now, an application that's for that building is going to go before zoning and planning. They have to, as we learned in the seminar the other day, they have to go by the code and then they have to just figure it out.
Yeah.
But
And
we
they
do
will.
have the
They'll do
final
that.
authority. We can make changes to those codes
So back to your
based on
question,
facts.
back to your question, Howard, we cannot discuss like this broad problem with
Right.
our review committee, because our review committee is strictly charged for hospitality.
Hospitality, correct.
Okay, but these issues are coming up and we're talking about them, but we cannot give an additional charge to our current committee
No.
at the
And
moment.
we also have a local law right now that we proposed last January that the comprehensive plan as a whole must be looked at every 10 years. And we,
I don't
I
recommend
think
it.
we did.
whenever we adopted
Yeah.
that would become protocol.
There's a resolution.
There's a resolution.
Yeah.
So every 10 years, because in a 10-year span, things change. I mean, look at the discussion on electric cars.
Mhm.
Who wouldn't have done that 10 years ago?
Right.
So every 10 years, and
Right.
things will happen. Sometimes you'll have to jump in like we did with hospitality. Sometimes it will not come up until you start your review
Yeah.
on the 10-year rotation. But all of these things will get addressed eventually. It's a living document. But I think the issue on that building right now is between planning and zoning, they're going to solve it.
And that might actually be when we're talking about what we want to list as part of our
Fun.
things we want to consider for funding.
Yep.
This could be one of them. You know,
Oh,
these
absolutely.
areas where we have these
handle it.
questions that don't work, or that doesn't really work for us anymore.
Not anymore, correct.
So we're going to come up with that list, and you just pointed out some great opportunities for us to revisit some of those
Yeah.
those inconsistencies.
Vicky,
I think they already approved the guy, and don't come back with a site plan. And,
No, there's a public hearing.
but the
Yeah.
public hearing,
Yep.
and I just throw it out to you. I believe if anybody challenges that with an Article 78, they're gonna win, because they can't do that, in my opinion. So, just like that woman with the swimming pool down there, you know, eventually somebody complained about it, and you got an Article 78.
Mhm.
which was
Which
dismissed.
which was dismissed.
Oh, I'm not about the latest, they
Yeah.
dismissed it.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Did the
just
neighbors
came in.
settle with that, or what happened?
Don't know.
Judge dismissed it because the
Judge
the
dismissed
judge determined that the
No standing.
zoning board did, did
Appropriate.
all the appropriate
Yep.
steps and balances, which is great.
Okay, anything else, Howard?
No,
Vicky?
I just want to say you guys
Thank you
have a
for
very full
staying
agenda.
on too.
We do, right?
Judith, do you have anything for us?
No, thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, Judith.
thank you for being patient. Okay, so we have a personnel issue we need to discuss privately in executive session. So someone care to make that motion?
I'll make it.
Mike, second.
I'll second.
Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.